Namaste. Today we'll talk about Taiichi Ohno, the man who stood in a circle and saved Toyota Nagoya plant in Japan in 1960. The Toyota Motor Corporation was bleeding. Cars shipped across the Pacific to America showrooms were coming back with complaints. Defects, breakdown, disappointed customers. Losses climbed past $1.42 million in a recession-choked Japan. That number was a red line. Kichori Toyoda gathered his workers. His voice broke as he told them the truth. He could not run the company anymore. He asked them to accept closure. The operator refused. They begged him to keep the plant alive. Moved by their loyalty, Toyota made a final gamble. One more month, he would hand the factories over to two men, Shingo and Taiichi Ohno, and asked everyone to help these two managers. Taiichi Ohno was not a charismatic leader. He did not give speeches. He did not give promises or miracles. He did something strange. He stood still. Ohno would plant his feet beside a machine and watch for hours, sometimes 30 to 40 hours, in a single chalk-driven circle on the factory floor, what workers would later call the Ohno Circle. He was seeing the waste no one else noticed, the unnecessary motion, the overproduction, defects hiding in the plain sight, and when a problem appeared, he asked one question, why? And then again, why? 5 times, sometimes more, peeling back every layer of symptom until the root cause lay exposed and trembling. This was the 5 whys, born not in a boardroom but on a shop floor in crisis. Within months, Ohno and Shingo had done the impossible. Productivity climbed, quality improved. The 7 waste Muda were named, hunted, eliminated just in time. Kaizen, lean. These were the management buzzwords, yet they were survival tactics forged in the desperation of a factory that almost died. What began as a 1 month of grace became the foundation of Toyota production system, a philosophy of continuous improvement so powerful it would reshape global manufacturing. Ford studied, GM feared, the world copied it. In 2015, Toyota became the largest automobile manufacturer on the earth, a goal Ohno had whispered about decades before, which was finally realized. Taiichi Ohno's gift, a machine or a patent, it was a way of looking, a discipline of standing still long enough to see the truth and asking until the truth answered back. He wrote the books, Toyota Production System, Beyond Large-Scale Production Workplace Management, but the real text was in the chalk circle of the factory floor. He taught the world that greatness is not loud, it observes, it questions, it refuses to look away, and sometimes it saves a company by simply standing there. Let's observe video of Taiichi Ohno.
At Toyota, the engineer who did most to push the pace was Taiichi Ohno.
例えば機械が自動で削っておる。それを一生懸命
Machines actually work by themselves. So someone standing over one, watching it intently, might think he's working.
ところが見ておらんでも機械は電気さえ通じれば
But the machine's doing fine on its own. So I'd say that's a waste of manpower.
無駄なんだよと。でこの無駄を見つけて、非常にこの上手に見つけるのが当時おりましてね。でそれに
If I found a job that was being done efficiently,
半分で
I would say try doing it with half the number of men.
そしたら一月か二月でね。
And after a time, when they had come back and said that they'd done that, I'd say, okay, halve the number again.
ではもう半分でやりなさいと。
夜中に寝てて夢を見るんですよ。
At night, I'd have dreams. My job was the last one on the line, and I dreamed that I wasn't keeping up. And just as the engine was about to fall off the end, I'd wake up with a shout. Things got to that stage.
ただ部屋へ集めて無駄はやめなさいって言っても
If I just called the foreman and said stop the waste, people wouldn't understand what I meant.
の監督者も昔からこうやってやっておったんだと。
They'd say, but we've always done things that way. Or, this man's a hard worker. But I'd say, you can't see straight. That's not real work.
いうことをもう現地で
So unless I spoke to the worker right on the shop floor, It was difficult to get things to change.
省けんのですね。
組長の役割っていうのは変わってくるわけですね。ラインをスムーズに流す。
With the introduction of the production line, the foreman's job changed. His role now was to see that the line ran smoothly. Before that, they'd felt that wasn't enough. That if they weren't getting their hands dirty, they weren't really working. But Mr. Ohno would come along and say, your job is to stand here and make absolutely sure that the line is moving properly. I remember him drawing a chalk circle on the floor and saying, you stand in here.
Ohno was the most creative engineer in the post-war car industry. He made the maximum use of human labor, and he changed the whole system which fed the assembly line itself. In the traditional method, the many different parts, doors or engines, had been pushed out in big numbers and piled up beside the line until they were needed. This was Henry Ford's method.
いや、それをやったらもう戦後の日本の特に自動車すぐ潰れちゃう。
If we'd done that in post-war Japan, especially in the motor industry, we would have gone bust straight away.
だからもうどうしてもできるだけ
Goods needed to be turned into money as quickly as
少
possible.
ない手持ちで
So we really had to keep our stocks to the bare minimum.
いかんのじゃないかと。
Ohno saw that by carrying 1 or 2 months' stock, Toyota was tying up immense amounts of capital. So the company reorganized the factories until the assembly line and the making of the parts ran at the same rate. Parts were only made and called to the assembly line in the quantity needed. The Japanese called it the just-in-time method.
でもうジャストインタイムの一番大事なことは
With the just-in-time system, the most important thing was to produce only what was needed. When workers needed more parts, they themselves would go and get them.
取りに行くって言ってもこれ
But if they took parts away without leaving anything in exchange, you would have a problem. So just as in a supermarket, where customers take goods from the shelves and exchange them for money, we used what we call a kanban instead of money.
我々これ看板
At each workstation, the kanban acted as a sort of order form. The kanban said in effect, this number of these parts has been used, so please make this number of the same parts and place them here.
The Americans used their huge presses to stamp out the same parts for weeks at a time. The Japanese made fewer vehicles, but a range of models, so they had to use the same presses to make parts for different cars.
100も売ったらもうすぐ次の部
I wanted the machines to produce sets of 100 of one shape and then change to another.
でやっておるって言うともう2、3分です。
Although the production may have only taken minutes, changing the machines could take hours,
1時間も機械
and everyone would be standing around doing nothing, wasting time.
全然仕事にならん。
Ohno got the time for changing the dies in the presses, which took up to 3 hours in America, down to a few minutes. Then the same machine that had just been pressing mud guards could get on with other parts. The Ohno revolution to get the best use of labor and machines was extended to all the suppliers. Productivity increased 4-fold in 10 years.
Jai Hind.